Fatal Attraction. Every cheater's worst nightmare.
Married couples around the world saw that movie and were like, whoa.
Director Adrian Lynn's hair-raising thriller rivets audiences with its shocking story of adultery, obsession, and violence.
2 words: bunny killer.
For most, the movie is simply a cautionary tale. But less than 2 years after its release, it becomes a shocking reality. The crime, almost a mirror image of the film.
It was about love, sex, possessiveness.
We all know how the movie ends. Glenn Close dead in the bathtub. In real life, though, there's a cinematic twist.
And in this nail-biter, who lives and who dies has just as many twists and turns as any blockbuster script. (1987). Adrian Lynn's Fatal Attraction lands in theaters. The psychological thriller about a love triangle turned deadly sets off a powder keg of controversy and conversation.
From the moment it premiered, Fatal Attraction was a lightning rod. People couldn't stop talking about it.
In the movie, Dan Gallagher, played by Michael Douglas, seems to have a wonderful life. He has a beautiful wife, a young daughter, a successful career.
But when he gives in to temptation and has an affair with Alex Forrest, played by Glenn Close, he sets off a chain reaction that threatens to destroy his family.
Audiences jump in their seats as they watch obsessed mistress Alex Forrest terrorize the family of her married lover on screen. And for one man in Greensburg, New York, Fatal Attraction becomes hauntingly real after his infidelity sparks a real-life love triangle that ends in a grisly murder.
Police didn't have any leads on who could have done this.
They had nothing. They didn't have forensics, they didn't have a gun.
You shoot somebody 9 times, that really appears to be a crime based on rage.
Kristen, what do you want on your sandwich? Peanut butter or jelly?
Just jelly, Mom.
The year is 1987. Paul and Betty Jean Solomon are living a quiet suburban existence with their teenage daughter.
Where's Kristen? We're running late.
Paul and Betty Jean had a pretty balanced life. It's a typical American family.
Hey, Mom, have you seen my book? I can't... Oh, that's what I was looking for.
He's got a pretty good job. She's got a pretty good job, but they live comfortably.
Do you know where Dad is? I'm gonna be late.
He's coming.
Paul works as a 6th grade teacher at a local elementary school, while Betty Jean is employed as an account executive across town.
Wait. Don't forget your lunch.
Thank you. Love you. Love you too.
They were a busy couple. They were 2 adults with careers. And when that goes on in a relationship, it's very easy to fall into a rut.
It appears that Paul Solomon is living a good life.
How's it going? Nice to see you.
Good, let's see.
But just like in the film Fatal Attraction, this happily married man soon finds himself face to face with temptation.
Hi, Kat.
Good.
Hey, Carolyn, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Paul, this is Carolyn. Carolyn's new here.
Hi.
She's a new
Nice to
teacher.
meet you.
Paul, nice to meet you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Carolyn Warmus was a teacher at the same school where Paul Solomon taught. She was a very attractive blonde, about 5'6", 5'7".
You should go introduce yourself.
I will. I'll see you guys around. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Slender, toned physique, great personality, very bubbly. Instantly liked her when you met her. She was just a very nice person.
Paul is smitten by the younger, sexy computer science teacher.
Paul and Carolyn were immediately attracted to each other. Things just took off from there.
Over the next several months, the two develop a flirtatious relationship. And soon, things get even hotter when the two teachers test their chemistry outside of the classroom.
So I'm so happy you finally came out with me.
Me too. How's the rest of your day today?
It was very good.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
So, what are you doing later?
Well, I have nothing planned. Maybe we should, go back to your apartment.
Well, that's a little presumptuous.
It makes me think of a scene early in the movie where Alex and Dan go out for dinner.
Dan's telling a story. Alex is listening intently, and she's laughing in all the right places. You can feel that sexual tension and electricity building. You're just waiting for it to ignite.
Yeah, I think it's important that we can be discreet. So are you?
Am I what?
Discreet?
I can be discreet.
Can you?
I can.
Good.
And when he says yes, he is discreet, well, we know where this is going.
Like Michael Douglas's character Dan, Paul just can't help himself.
Paul had cheated on his wife before and hadn't been caught. So when Carolyn came into his life, he did what some married men might do.
The movie really captures it. For some people, cheating is really just about opportunity. When somebody interesting enters your orbit, well, you go for it.
After all, Carolyn Warmus seems like the perfect mistress. Sexy, sophisticated, and smart.
Carolyn grew up in Michigan. She grew up in an affluent household. Her father had some sort of insurance company, and he was very successful, had tons of money. She went to good schools. She had a master's degree, so she was an academic person. And then she was a teacher.
Before long, Paul and Carolyn's one-night stand becomes an ongoing affair.
She had an apartment in New York, and he would find any excuse he could to get away and meet her there.
That's one big difference between Paul and Carolyn and their film alter egos. Alex and Dan spent one wild sexual weekend together. Paul and Carolyn went on for months.
Paul seems to have the best of both worlds, his loving wife and a hot girlfriend on the side.
He had his cake and he ate it. And he ate a lot of cake.
I have to go, right?
What?
I'm sorry, I have to go. I'm sorry.
Still, at the end of the day, this family man would always go home to his wife and daughter.
Baby, don't go.
I'm sorry.
No, stay.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Stay for a little bit longer, please.
I have to go.
Please stay.
Carolyn.
No, don't
Carolyn.
leave.
I don't have time for this. I have to go. I have to go, okay?
Paul figures she knows I'm married. What's the big deal?
Carolyn, however, is starting to want more from her married lover. And if he isn't coming to her, she's going to him.
Oh, hello, Paul.
Hey.
It looks like we shop at the same places.
Yeah, honey, this is Carolyn Warmus. She's the new computer science teacher at school.
Oh, so nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, too. I've seen pictures of you all over Paul's classroom.
Now, any woman, when she sees an attractive woman with her husband, that might give anyone pause. But there's no reason to believe that Betty Jean was alarmed about, initially about the relationship.
You still have the one from
Halloween, yes. That was really cute.
Imagining what the encounter was like, I can just bet Paul was thinking, oh no, she's gonna spill the beans. But she doesn't.
Well, it was so nice to meet you both. And I'll see you on Monday, Paul.
Yeah, see you Monday.
Bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
Paul.
Good night.
She seemed nice.
Yeah.
This is when Paul has his Dan Gallagher moment. This is not just a fling. She wants something more. This is gonna get serious.
How far Carolyn Warmus will go to be a part of Paul's world will destroy all their lives forever and ultimately lead to murder.
She was definitely starting to lose control, and Paul pretty much had no idea what she was gonna do next.
Hi. Is Paul home?
Fatal attraction. A married man gets involved with another woman, and it turns out to be the deadliest mistake of his life. The cheaters everywhere. Adrian Lynn's movie was the stuff of nightmares. And for Hollywood, it was box office gold.
I bet the infidelity rate dropped for months after this came out.
The worst-case scenario of the affair gone wrong is more than just a dark fantasy. It provides the real-life script for a deadly love triangle and vicious murder. But in this real-life story, who will die? The cheating husband, his unsuspecting wife, or his obsessed mistress?
Oh, hello, Paul.
Hey.
Carolyn knew she was the mistress on the side, but I think it's pretty clear that she wanted more from Paul than what she was getting. Paul had no intention of leaving his wife.
Carolyn wanted to be central to his life, whether he wanted her there or not.
And Paul has no idea how big of a problem he really has. Unfortunately for this family man, Carolyn's next move will hit even closer to home.
Carolyn Warmus would show up at Betty Jean's and Paul's house.
Oh, hi, Carolyn.
Hi. Is Paul home?
Yeah, he sure is. Paul, Carolyn's here.
I'm so sorry to bother you. I just had these papers from the PTA meeting.
Oh my goodness, no bother at all. Actually, we were just about to sit down to eat. Would you like to join us?
Really? Are you sure? I'd hate to be an imposition.
Absolutely not. Come on.
Oblivious to her real intentions, Betty Jean unwittingly welcomes Carolyn not only into their house, but into their lives as well.
You have a really lovely home.
Thank you.
In the movie, Dan has a similar experience when he comes home and finds Alex in his living room with his wife.
The tension is there. He knows with one word, she can change everything.
Oh my God, they are so hot.
What movie is this?
Young Guns. I just saw Mystic Pizza.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, except for the girl that had the affair with the married man and got her heart broken.
Carolyn seemed to like being with Paul's family, probably because it gave her an opportunity to picture herself in the role of Paul's wife. But I think she also liked messing with him.
What about you, Paul? Paul?
Huh?
What's your favorite movie this year?
Die Hard.
Oh, of course.
You're such a guy.
You know, this one doesn't have a romantic bone in his body.
You have to conjecture that she liked making people squirm a little bit, and that perhaps that was a sense of power or a way of flaunting the affair.
For Paul, the thrill of getting caught may have put a charge into the affair.
I think that Paul did have a little rush of adrenaline with Carolyn Warmus. She had that effect on men.
Kristen? Kristen?
Thank you so much for dinner. That was lovely.
Oh, my pleasure.
For Paul, this might be the best of all possible worlds, and he gets to hide his dirty little secret in plain sight.
Carolyn came to the house more and more, and it seems to be the case she wanted to be part of that family, that she wanted to find her way into it.
Let's try a little bit of this color on your cheek.
Carolyn even tries to befriend Paul and Betty Jean's daughter.
And then try this one on your...
It's probably the case that Carolyn wanted to get involved with Kristen so that Paul would see her as a wife mom.
I can't wait for our ski trip. We're gonna have such a good time.
I'm so excited. I've never been skiing, ever.
You're gonna love it. There's this incredible lodge at the base of the mountain, and it has this huge fireplace, and it's so...
Hey, Mom.
What are you guys doing in here?
Okay, guess what? Carolyn said I can go skiing with her. She's gonna take me on her trip. Isn't that exciting?
Carolyn invited Kristen to go on a weekend ski trip with her, which Betty Jean was a little unsure about.
I don't know, Carolyn. I think it might be a little too much.
No, oh, don't be silly. It is my pleasure. It's no trouble at all. I'd love to take her with me. We'll have a blast.
Please, Mom, come on.
Well, I guess Carolyn's taking you on a ski trip then.
Yay! It's gonna be so fun.
Great.
It's gonna be great. We'll get a headpiece.
But soon, Betty Jean grows uneasy with her daughter's new friendship with her husband's coworker, sensing something isn't quite right.
Paul, can I talk to you for a minute?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
I've been thinking about this trip that Kristen's going on with Carolyn, and I feel a little funny about it.
Betty Jean finally looked closely at the relationship and thought what any mother would think. Is this really the best thing for my daughter?
Kristen, she seems to have fun with her, and they always have a good time. And I think it's okay.
Can you stop watching the TV just for 1 minute so we can talk?
Look, let's just let them go on this one trip, and then, you know, anything like this happens again, we'll just have to discuss it further, okay?
You see the same thing with Ann Archer's character. When she senses that Alex is moving in on the family, she gets tough.
Fearing Carolyn may be getting too close to his family, Paul tries to push her away.
Paul really started to get insecure about how enmeshed Carolyn was, and that her demands in the relationship were just too much for him.
Carolyn's me. And just listen to me. It's over, okay?
Paul made it clear that she needed to really keep her distance from then on. And that made things even worse.
Like Alex Forrest, Carolyn will not be ignored.
Carolyn had a history of stalking men.
She went after men who were already in relationships.
And Carolyn Warmus is once again about to take things one step too far.
She probably felt, if I can't have him, no one else can have him.
A woman sleeps with a man and becomes obsessed with him. She calls him, stalks him, and shows up unwanted in his home. It's the story of the blockbuster film Fatal Attraction. But it's also the real-life love triangle between Paul Solomon, his wife Betty Jean, and his mistress, Carolyn Warmus.
Carolyn Warmus would show up at Betty Jean's and Paul's house and befriended the daughter, and she tried to become more of a friend of the family. I think that Carolyn would have wanted to replace Betty Jean.
So when Paul Solomon tries to push away from Carolyn, Carolyn pushes back.
Just like the Glenn Close character in the movie, Carolyn does not take no for an answer. When Paul calls the affair off, Carolyn doesn't want to let go.
I'll get it. Hello? Hello?
I think Carolyn was a possessive individual, and then when Paul tried to pull away from her, she didn't take it too kindly.
Phone rings, and that terrified look in Dan's eyes, you can see he knows who's on the other end of that phone. Well, same thing happens for Paul.
She kept calling and calling and calling.
Hello?
Hi, Paul.
Hello?
Hello? Who is this?
Whoever this is, please stop calling.
Paul's wife, Betty Jean, had no idea who was harassing them, but Paul did.
Carolyn soon makes it clear she wants Paul's full attention.
Paul, why aren't you answering any of my calls? Hello?
For Paul, it's clear Carolyn Warmus will not go quietly into the night. And little does he know, it's not the first time she hasn't.
While Carolyn was good at launching into relationships, she was not very good at walking away from them.
Carolyn had a long history that when a man pulled away from her, that she didn't react well. And that repeats itself over the course of her life. Before Paul Solomon, she had other interactions that mimicked the same kind of situation.
In college, just 4 years before meeting Paul, Carolyn had a hot and heavy relationship with another co-ed.
Carolyn was involved with somebody who was engaged at one point, and when he broke that off, she wasn't going to accept it.
We're fine. Please don't go.
Look, I had fun with you. Gotta go, though. You can stay here if you want to.
Carolyn would get fixated and start to obsess, trying to get closer every time they would pull away. In a lot of ways, this college relationship was a blueprint for her affair with Paul. I mean, when he tried to break up with her, she started calling him like crazy. She followed him around campus. She was really obsessed. When she felt hurt and rebuffed, she got upset. And when she got upset, there was no telling what she might do.
And like she would do years later with Paul, Carolyn begins harassing this boyfriend.
Sorry I missed you. Leave a message after the beep.
I saw you today with your new girlfriend, and I know you're playing a game with me. We both know that we're meant to be together, so let's stop all of this and accept our fate. If I don't see you soon, I'm worried what I might do. I don't think you'd like it, though. Call me back.
I don't think Carolyn gets the hint when someone's not interested in her.
And when the phone calls didn't work,
Carolyn contacted a Manhattan private investigator to find out what he was doing and his whereabouts. She needed to know where her man was, even if he wasn't available to her anymore.
this private investigator is Vincent Parco.
When Carolyn first hired us, we did a regular background investigation of this young man.
You know, just check into it. Do a favor for me. This is me, Vince.
But after a while, she became a little obsessive with this case. And that's when I stopped. I said, look, you know, we did enough. We did all we can do as investigators.
Despite Parco's decision to call off his investigation, Carolyn makes one last-ditch effort to get this former boyfriend's attention by leaving notes in his apartment.
Her stalking behavior was serious enough that they had to get a restraining order.
Carolyn's old flame may have gotten away. But now she isn't about to let her current lover, Paul, go that easily. So she once again reaches out to Vincent Parco.
After Carolyn hired Vincent Parco, the relationship went from strictly being a professional one to being friendly. They were considered friends.
Carolyn uses her friendship with Parco to ask for another favor.
I don't know if I should do this.
You have to trust me.
And in the meantime, she tries to win back Paul the only way she knows how.
Howdy, stranger.
Are you crazy? Get in here.
In the movie, while Dan is firm about backing off from Alex after that first weekend, Paul can't seem to walk away from Carolyn.
Every time that Carolyn sensed Paul was pushing away, she came back even stronger and redoubled her efforts. And it looks pretty clear that Paul couldn't resist. Paul always went back.
With the relationship back on, Carolyn wants to keep it that way. She wants Paul to leave his wife.
She was getting tired of sneaking around, tired of being the other woman. She wanted him to commit.
Alex says the same thing to Dan. She wants them to be together. They're going to build a family. And Dan's saying, there is no way that's going to happen.
Paul wasn't so definitive. He didn't want to leave his family, but he didn't want to give Carolyn up either.
Paul was really, really attracted to Carolyn, and that led him to want to be with her, and Paul wasn't willing to go the route of divorce.
And 18 months after the affair begins, one of them will find another way to get Betty Jean Solomon out of the picture permanently.
Betty Jean was shot 9 times. That's just not an execution. That really appears to be a crime based on rage.
But is it Paul or Carolyn behind the trigger? Or did they do it together? In Greensburg, New York, a real-life fatal attraction is playing out. Like the film, a married man is trapped in a love triangle between his wife and sexy mistress, where there can be only one winner of his affection.
Paul was attracted to Carolyn. She was an attractive woman, and that led him to want to be with her, even though deep down inside, he probably knew he shouldn't.
But in this real-life case, the people are not actors, and the violence is about to become very, very real.
Yes, hello? 911, what is your emergency? She's dead. She's dead. Can you repeat that, sir? My wife, she's been shot.
In Fatal Attraction, it's the mistress who dies. But in this real-life case, it's the wife who pays the ultimate price. But who killed her?
At around 11:40 p.m., Greensburg police rush to the home of Paul and Betty Jean Solomon. There, they are met with a grisly scene.
Betty Jean had been shot 9 times.
The number of times that Betty Jean was shot is definitely a sign of aggression, hate. You don't shoot people 9 times. The rage is unbelievable.
Police immediately rule out burglary as a motive.
The crime scene forensics suggests that the person did not force their way in. There wasn't a breaking and entry. And the rest of the apartment wasn't disturbed. So it seems to highly suggest that the victim knew the perpetrator.
And if the perpetrator didn't force their way in, police believe the killer most likely came from within the home.
When the wife is dead, the husband is often the first place the investigation starts. And in this case, Paul wasn't giving them any reason to look anywhere else.
Sorry to hear about your wife. I know I'd be a mess.
It's been hard.
You seem to be handling it pretty well, though.
Well,
Not to mention, he's a suspect with plenty of opportunity to commit the crime.
Paul was the last to see his wife alive and the first to find her dead.
So you know why we called you in here tonight, right?
well, actually, no, not really.
It turns out the murder just happened to be on an evening when Paul's daughter is once again away on a ski trip.
The fact that Betty Jean was alone and her daughter was away on a ski trip seemed very suspicious.
In a situation like this, the husband's always the first person we want to talk to.
Paul could have sent his daughter away on a ski trip just so this could happen.
So what can you tell me about Tuesday night?
I left the house to go meet up with some friends. Yeah, I'm gonna go bowling, okay? I'll be back in a couple hours.
Oh, okay. I'll have dinner ready when you get home.
Okay.
Paul tells investigators he left the house around 6:30 p.m. to meet some friends at a local bowling alley. It's around this time when police believe Betty Jean was killed. And when he returned 5 hours later, he claims he found her dead on the floor.
You know, like I said before, you know, I left the house. I went out to go see friends. It was like 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, wait a minute. So last time you said it was 8 o'clock.
7, 8. I mean, it was around that time, but it was 7, I'm pretty sure.
Paul's alibi just wasn't adding up. He kept getting his story messed up, and he kept changing details.
I had nothing to do with this, okay? I don't even own a gun.
Paul had also washed his hands after discovering the body, so later the police couldn't check them for gunpowder residue.
If this were a movie, Paul would be sitting under those lights taking those questions, and the police would be thinking it's just a matter of time before we break our man.
So who do you think did it?
I don't know. That's your job.
Anything going on in your life that would lead you to believe somebody would want to kill your wife?
I don't really know. I don't know who did it. I came home and she was lying there on the floor. Me and my wife, we didn't have the best marriage, sure, but who does? You know, I had no reason for me to kill her, though.
It just seems that the details of your stories are not adding up.
I don't know what else to tell you. I swear to you, I didn't kill my wife.
But you know, the more we learn about this, the more you seem guilty.
And Paul is about to look even worse to police when he comes clean on who he was really with that evening.
I'll tell you the truth. I've been having an affair. Her name is Carolyn Warmus.
Paul admits to police that he only stayed at the bowling alley for a short time before meeting up with Carolyn.
Paul's wife is dead. He's having an affair with a wealthy younger woman. Now, the cops didn't exactly have a smoking gun yet, but they seem to have plenty of motive.
But that's it. That's all I'm guilty of. I swear to you, I didn't kill my wife. Am I free to go?
Yeah, you're free to leave. But I gotta tell you, we're gonna be keeping an eye on you very closely.
With no direct evidence, police don't have enough to build a case against Paul. At least not yet.
Police were suspicious of Paul, as in most of these kind of cases, but they had no proof. They had nothing. They didn't have forensics, they didn't have gun, they didn't have anything that would prove that he killed his wife.
Knowing police are watching his every move, Paul once again cuts ties with Carolyn.
Listen, we've got to stop seeing each other. It's just too dangerous right now. You know that.
Paul realized that if he wanted to see Carolyn, he ran the risk of making himself look guiltier.
For the next few months after the murder, both Paul and Carolyn laid low. Both of them swore they had nothing to do with the murder.
While Carolyn patiently waits for the heat to die down to be with her lover, Paul isn't so patient. He soon finds comfort in the arms of yet another woman.
It wasn't real long after Betty Jean's death and murder that Paul started dating somebody else. You know, if your wife's just been murdered, a lot of people would suggest that it's time to grieve. It's not time to get involved with somebody else.
His wife had just died and he was already dating.
This didn't look good for him, and when Carolyn realized this, it pushed her right over the edge.
As expected, Carolyn does not take the news of the other woman well.
When Carolyn Warmus found out that Paul was going out with another woman, I'm sure she was enraged.
If Paul was hoping to distance himself from Carolyn,
Hi, Paul.
he's dead wrong.
At this point, Carolyn, she was doing her best Alex Forrest. She was calling, obsessing, stalking.
She even followed Paul and his new girlfriend to Puerto Rico and showed up at their hotel. She was completely out of control.
Under siege from his former mistress, Paul points his finger towards Carolyn Warmus, telling police he's convinced she's the killer.
As you can imagine, a man trying to hang his wife's murder on his mistress doesn't carry a lot of weight with investigators.
At first, police believe Paul is just trying to cast suspicion on his jilted ex-mistress, until they notice something alarming.
When the police started checking the phone records, of course, they saw all the calls that she was making to Paul's house, just as he had said. But then when they dug deeper, they found something even more interesting.
There are a series of calls to a private investigator named Vincent Parco, including one on the day of the murder.
Investigators question Carolyn's old friend. private investigator Vincent Parco.
I've known her for quite a while, and she knows I'm a private investigator. And
police asked me what our relationship was, and I told them that she was a client at one time, and that she hired us to do backgrounds on her boyfriend, and we did, and so sort of how I got involved with being friendly with her.
Carol had several relationships with unavailable men, you know.
Don't you think it's a little odd to be running background checks on the people in Carolyn's life?
Parco also tells police about Carolyn's history of stalking ex-boyfriends.
I told him that the first boyfriend that she hired us to investigate had a girlfriend. It was a basic investigation, but it became almost a stalking type of thing.
Just don't know about her anymore.
Then he drops a bombshell. That favor she asked Parco for several weeks back was a gun. Have police just found their murder weapon? And if so, did Carolyn act alone, or are they both involved? Glenn Close is in the bathroom wielding a deadly knife. It's one of the most famous scenes in Fatal Attraction, and it makes for a jaw-dropping finale.
When she comes after Ann Archer, you think, oh man, she's done. But Michael Douglas grabs her and drowns her in the bathtub.
Now, in the movies, of course, no one's dead the first time. So when Alex lunges out of the tub, Ann Archer shoots her dead, and the audiences just went wild.
This real-life story also ends with a shootout, but the outcome is very different. Betty Jean Solomon is shot 9 times by an unknown suspect.
At first, police were sure that Paul had killed his wife. But then they started to take a closer look at his mistress, Carolyn Warmus.
Police questioned Carolyn's old friend and private investigator, Vincent Parco.
When the police interviewed me, I fully cooperated with them.
I knew that Carol had several relationships with unavailable men, you know.
Parco tells police that he had worked for Carolyn in the past, digging up dirt on past boyfriends and lovers.
Parco's not really giving the police good information at first, but at some point, he almost literally gives them a smoking gun.
I told them that I had this gun, and she was asking me many times, different ways, that she wanted the gun for protection. And I didn't think that she would use this thing. I really didn't think.
Parco gave the gun to Carolyn because he believed her that she was afraid and wanted it for protection. He didn't believe that she had any murderous intentions.
It's the same caliber gun used to murder Betty Jean Solomon.
I was the, whatever you call it, the star witness to put all this case together. It wasn't the best time of my life to, you know, but I had to do it.
Police continue to build a case against Carolyn and quickly discover she made calls to a sporting goods store in New Jersey the day before the murder.
That might not seem like much. She called a sporting goods store. But one thing sporting goods stores sell is ammunition.
The store has no records of Carolyn Warmus buying ammunition, but they do find something else interesting.
The name in their records was Lisa Katai, not Carolyn Warmus. At first, police don't know what to make of it, but then they start digging deeper.
They found that Lisa Katai had had her license stolen a few months earlier. But more than that, they found she had worked with a woman named Carolyn Warmus.
Okay, now it's time to cue the dramatic music.
On February 2nd, 1990, Carolyn Warmus is charged with the murder of Betty Jean Solomon. They believe Carolyn acted alone, and the crime went down like this.
So on January 15, 1989, Betty Jean Solomon was home alone. Her daughter was on a ski trip. Her husband was at a bowling alley. Carolyn Warmus drives up to the house. She knocks on the door. Betty Jean knows who she is, lets her in. There was no signs of forced entry.
Hi. Carolyn, what are you doing here?
Oh, I had something to bring over for you.
What are you talking about?
point, she shot the woman 9 times. Then she went back to the bowling alley and met Paul like nothing happened.
The day that Betty Jean Solomon was killed, she was shot 9 times with a .25 caliber handgun. Prosecutors say defendant Carolyn Warmus pulled the trigger.
Police at first suspected her husband, schoolteacher Paul Solomon, but they eventually charged Warmus, also a teacher who was having an affair with Solomon. The motive, obsessive, jealous love. It was called the Fatal Attraction case after the movie.
The media goes wild for the case and dub it the Fatal Attraction murder.
The trial was tough because all of the evidence was circumstantial. Yes, Carolyn stalked Paul. Yes, Parco gave her a gun, and it was the same type of weapon used to kill Betty Jean. And yes, she probably bought the ammo, but no gun was ever located, and there was no direct evidence that Carolyn fired the gun.
The first trial against Carolyn Warmus ends in a hung jury, but a year later, Carolyn is tried again. This time, a key piece of evidence missing from the first trial is admitted.
In the crime scene photos, there's a black glove seen in some of the shots. During the first trial, that glove is nowhere to be found. Sometime after, Paul supposedly finds the glove in his house. It's a black cashmere glove, and it's got blood on it.
DNA testing on the blood is inconclusive, but investigators dig up a receipt for a pair of black cashmere gloves charged to Carolyn Warmus. The question remains, where did that glove go, and how did it suddenly turn back up?
Accordingly, based on the verdicts of guilty of murder in the second degree.
With this evidence, a jury quickly finds Carolyn Warmus guilty of second-degree murder. She's sentenced to 25 years to life in prison.
When Carolyn heard the verdict, she was devastated. She'd probably killed Betty Jean so she could be with Paul. Instead, she was going to end up in a jail cell all by her lonesome. It's probably not the ending of the story one would write for themselves.
To this day, Carolyn maintains her innocence. She claims she's been framed by her lover, Paul Solomon. But for everyone else, they believe justice was served.
There really is no satisfaction in this verdict. One thing that's been lost in this trial is that somebody took Betty Jean's life.
In the end, it turned out very different from Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction is just a movie. But in this, life truly seemed to imitate art.